Hi, welcome to ND Reports. Today's date is April 26 and total episode is the It's Not What You Consider agenda behind the shutdown. Now, let's get into economic collapse and financial news. Now, when we talk about a plan, we talk about bringing down the central bank, we talk about arrest. When Trump talks about draining the swamp, we think of these people that are treasonous and corrupt. But we never think about those individuals that are part of the system, that have been put into place to blow the system economically, and this is what we called government. Remember, the central bankers delayed the globe list. They were putting all their people into place for a reason. They were bringing more and more people into government bloating it for a reason, and when Trump talks about draining the swamp, it's not just those treasonous people. He has to drain the economic swamp to prepare the United States for this transition that will be going to work. I will be talking about that in just a moment, but I want to go out to UK with the Brexit. The Brexit deal is not going to over too well here, and according to the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, and President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Union is ready to adopt efforts and talks if the Brexit transition is extended. They noted, however, that Brussels would not agree to any changes to deal, so we know the United Kingdom government, they are going to vote on this month. But at this point, I don't think Medi is going to get enough votes for her deal. And if they postpone this, the European Union says they don't have a problem with this, but don't expect them to change their deal. Why do they want them to extend the deadline? Because they want me to convince her government to vote on this Brexit deal. The European Union is not going to give in, and we can see at this point that May might be finished after this. Now we were talking about the United States and the shutdown right now, and coming out of the Daily Seller, there was this op-ed, and I'm going to read part of it to you so you can get some idea of what this individual is talking about. It begins as follows: federal employees are starting to feel the strain of the shutdown. I am one of them, but for the sake of our nation, I hope it lasts a very long time till the government is changed. I can never return to its previous form. The lapse in appropriation is more than a battle over a wall. It's an opportunity to strip wasteful government agency for good. On an average day, roughly 25% of the employees around me are exceptional patriots serving their country. I wish I could give competitive salaries to them and no one else, but 80% feel no pressure to produce results. If they don't like doing what they are told, they don't. Why would they? We can't fire them. They avoid attention, plan their weekend schedule, vacations, their second job, their next position. Some do. This is in the same position for more than a decade. Process is what we serve. Process keeps us safe. Process is our core value. It takes a lot of people to maintain the process, provide jobs. In fact, there are processes and process experts and certified process managers who protect the process. Then there are the 5% with Moxie career managers. At any given time, they can charge, clarify, and add to process, even to the store or blog policy council for the president's saboteurs, peddling opinion as research task in their staff on pet project were pitching wasteful grants. Dear friends, most of my colleagues actively work against the president agenda. This means I typically spend about 15% of my time on the president's agenda and 85% on my time trying to stop sabotage, and we have no power to get rid of them until the shutdown due to the lack of funding. Many federal agencies are now operating more effectively from the top down on a fraction of their workforce, with only select essential personnel serving national security tasks. One might think this is how government should function, but bureaucracies operate from the bottom up. A collective self-generated ideas become initiatives formalizing to offices. They seek funds from Congress, become bureaus or sub-agencies, and maybe one day grow into their own independent agency. Like our nature of big administrative bureaucracy is to grow to serve itself. But Trump can end this abuse. Senior officials can reprioritize during an extended shutdown, focus on viable results, and weed out the saboteurs. We don't want most employees to return because we are working better without them. Sure, we empathize with their families making tough financial decisions like mine, when just like private citizens who have to find other work and bring competitive value every day while paying more than a third of their salary in federal taxes. Trump has created more jobs in the private sector than the furloughed federal workforce. Now that we are shut down, not only are we identifying and limiting much of the sabotage and waste, we are finally working on the president's agenda. Trump does not need Congress to address the border emergency, and yes, it is an emergency. Billions upon billions of hard-earned tax dollars are still being dumped and Schufer Day programs every year that do nothing for American interests or national security. The president does not need congressional funding to deconstruct abusive agency who work against his agenda. This is a chance to effect will change, and this leverage grows stronger every day. The shutdown lasts to be a victory. The shutdown must be different than those of the past and should achieve lasting disruption with two major changes, or it will hurt the president. The president instincts are right. Most Americans will not miss non-essential government function. A referendum to end government plunder must happen. Wasteful government agencies are fighting for relevance, but they will lose. Now is the time to deliver historic change by cutting them down. Ever so, when we talk about draining the swamp, Trump right now with the shutdown is draining this economic swamp. He is getting rid of the blood in government, yes, the deep state, the saboteurs and everything else, but he's getting rid of the wasteful agency because this is the perfect time to go in. And if you keep the shutdown long enough, people start to notice that we don't need these individuals. Think about the mainstream media right now. Think about what they are doing. They are holding up signs of people saying 800,000 people without pay. We need to stop the shutdown. Kami is out there, and others saying that we need to stop this. We need to bring these people back. Why are they so pushing this? It sounds like they really care about these people, but they realize what's happening. They realize that Trump is draining the economic swamp in government and taking the entire government, downsizing it. Remember, over the many years, the deep state, the central bankers, they kept adding people to the government. How do you do it quickly and prepare for transition? Can you start going agency to agency and say, listen, we need to shut this down? It will take a very long time. If you have shut down, it affects almost everyone, and it shows because these individuals and his departments going to be writing reports showing that they don't need all these people. This was done on purpose. Why do you think Trump right now is not declaring a national emergency? His waiting list out front about the 5 billion is not about the Democrats. It's not about any of these. He knows that they are not going to do anything. He knows that this is what the true agenda is really about. It's about draining the government swamp and reducing the footprint to prepare the country for transition, because the government right now spends less of money on all these different agencies. The government does not have the money to pay all of this out. Everything is changing, and yes, in the process he will remove all those people that are working against him. Remember, big government is the deep state's weapon right now. Trump is destroying that, destroying economically, destroying it with the shutdown, destroying everything that they have worked for. And you can see what the tweets with CNN, MSNBC, and all the rest putting out their articles on how this affect the everyday person. This is being done on purpose. This is to go to your emotions. But just like any company, just like any business, when things are not going right and the government can't pay anymore and we have so much debt and the amount of people that are bringing in tax dollars can't cover all these people, it's time to make a change. It's time to make a change. We are going to be going through this transition. The transition is going to show how bad the country is under a central bank system, how the country does not have the funds to support a government of this size. We talk about the transition, when we talk about the swamp, we are talking about it, and we can see this is the plan, is to prepare the country for a transition plan, is to get rid of all these individuals that work with the central bank. The plan is to get rid of a central bank that funds the deep states. The plan is to get rid of the central bank that funds the massive government. The plan is to put the country back on gold standard, destroy the Fed and have sound money. The plan is to give the power back to the people, and when I talk about the power, I am talking about the rights of the people, the ability to create their own currency, the ability to manage the economy without the central banks, the ability to follow the rule of law. This is the total plan. We are getting ready. We are preparing for the economic transition. Listen everyone, thanks a lot.